15. The stone forest in China's Yunnan province is a stunning 270-million-year-old forest. And while you'll find plenty of trees there, it's the stones that give the stone forest its name. The stone forest covers about 300 square kilometers of the landscape and is absolutely stunning to say the least. The forest has undergone millennia of seismic activity and water and wind erosion to give the limestone its unique shapes and formations, and it has since become a UNESCO World Heritage Site too, and for good reason. The enormous pillars almost create a huge network of labyrinths that I'm sure are plenty easy to get lost in, which is fine, because you can spend all day here and just enjoy yourself. The most famous stone here, the Ashima stone, is said to have formed after a beautiful young girl named Ashima turned to stone after having been forbidden to marry the man she loves. The locals also hold the Torch Festival every June here, which includes plenty of dancing, dragon playing, bullfighting and wrestling. When looking at the stone forest from afar, it is kind of hard to believe that something this majestic, this magical and strange can even exist, and it looks like something only the most creative and thoughtful of minds could have ever conceived. But then again, that's part of the beauty of nature. Let's just say this place rocks. Number 14. Darvaza gas crater. Alright, at the end of the day no one really knows for sure if there's an afterlife, but if you come see this ever-burning hole out in the middle of nowhere, then you may think twice. Gateway to the underworld, a nexus between worlds, the doorway to hell or the land before time. Well, it's located near the village of Devasi. The Darwaza gas crater is a 230-foot hole that's been burning now for 40 years and shows no signs of slowing down. About an eternal flame. But how does something like this happen, and is there a giant three-headed dog guarding it? Well, the answer to the first question is quite simple. The Darvaza gas crater was opened when the former Soviet Union was drilling in the Karakum Desert and accidentally came across a pocket of natural gas. A sinkhole formed and the rig collapsed, releasing noxious fumes into the air. But the drilling team set fire to the sinkhole to keep the gas from further releasing into the air and assumed that the fire would go out in just a few days. But you know what happens when you assume. Cut to 40 years later and this sinkhole is still going strong. There have been some efforts to put out the fire, but let's just say that those plans have all turned to ash. While a bit unsettling, the Darvaza gas crater has become one of the country's most popular tourist destinations too, and it offers a different type of oasis for hikers. You could say that this place is pretty lit. Number 13. Marble Cathedral. If you like all things fancy and shiny, then make your way over to Chile to see the Marble Cathedral, a series of marble caves in Cuevas de Marmal that are only accessible by boat. This epic, unusual yet natural formation is the product of more than 6,000 years of erosion caused by waves and beating against the rock day in and day out. Found on Lake General Carrera, the otherworldly and perfectly smooth rock beautifully reflects thesiafoam green water and sapphire blues, and it has more of a frosty gray finish. When you visit the Marble Cathedral, it's hard to believe that they weren't man-made, but believe it, they're all natural, and they even change colors during the year to reflect the water levels and the sunlight. In the spring the walls take on a more turquoise hue, while in the summer months, as the glaciers melt and sea level rise, they reflect a deeper shade of blue. The walls essentially provide a blank canvas for some amazing natural artwork, but to add to the mysticism and mystery of these caves from the outside, they are incredibly unassuming. It is until you venture inside that the real magic happens. So save up your money, because one visit to the Marble Cathedral in Chile is obviously not enough. Number 12. The Vermilion Cliffs National Monument, perhaps better known as the Wave. The Vermilion Cliffs National Monument in Arizona looks more like an art project than a force of nature, but that's what erosion and seismic activity will do to a place. The Vermilion Cliffs' claim to fame are the smooth wave-like rocks and reddish hues that can change color throughout the day as the sun passes over the sandstone rocks. Believe it or not, the formation is pretty fragile, and the Bureau of Land Management that protects it holds a daily lottery to give away just 10 tickets a day at the nearby visitor center in order to maintain the monument for as long as humanly possible. Coupled with the fact that it's incredibly hard and treacherous to reach human contact with, the Vermilion Cliffs is really kept to the bare minimum, and if you want to visit this breathtaking location, get ready to throw your name into the hat for months in advance. And you can't even get a map of this area unless you're one of the lucky few who have been selected, although making a place more exclusive can add to its mystique. The Vermilion Cliffs National Monument doesn't need the extra press to garner their much-deserved attention. Number 11. Tianzi Mountains. The Tianzi Mountains in China offer a type of majestic beauty that can only be described as otherworldly, and that's fitting because the mountain range has served as an inspiration for the alien setting in James Cameron's hit movie Avatar. Some of these peaks reach heights of 100 feet and are so tall that they sit high amongst the clouds. The entire landscape is 21 square miles inside the Wulingyang Scenic Area of Theshangjag National Forest Park in Hunan Province. Truly one of the most unique natural formations on Earth are these ledges of the mountains. Capture soil which allows amazing trees and foliage to grow on the mountain peaks and to make things even more epic. The Tianzi Mountains are 300 million years old, so as you can probably imagine, the mountain range is incredibly popular with tourists, and it's best visited after a heavy rain when the thick mist forms around the peaks, making you feel like you're on Pandora. But these mountains hold incredibly deep meaning for some groups as well. In 2014, burial sites and ritual artifacts were found beneath the mountains, left behind by indigenous people of Hunan long ago. No matter what one believes, the Tianzi Mountains are so incredibly awe-inspiring that it shouldn't be hard to see why they inspired some sort of religious significance. In 1992, the Tianzi Mountains were added to the UNESCO World Heritage List number 10. The Eye of the Sahara. For the next entry on this list, we're traveling deep into the Sahara Desert, formerly known as the Reshat structure. The Eye of the Sahara is a prominent feature in the area just west of Mauritania, and while you may not recognize it when you're standing right on top of it, it's when you get a bird's eye view of this unusual natural formation where you get to see it live up to its name. That's because, well, it really does look like the eye of something gazing straight up to the heavens, and if you ever needed a little bit of proof that the Earth is a living, breathing entity, this might just be it. The Eye of the Sahara is almost too good to be true, but how can something like this exist? Well, it's not that complicated. This enormous eye is a dome made of sedimentary rock with a diameter of a whopping 25 miles, caused by thousands and thousands of years of erosion. The inner eye itself is made of broken fragments of minerals and rocks that have essentially fused together, which gives it this familiar look, and this part of the structure has a diameter of 19 miles. The Eye of the Sahara has become a huge draw for astronauts too up there in the ISS, and it's truly a sight to behold. Number 9. The Great Blue Hole. A massive sinkhole that's best viewed from above. The Great Blue Hole is exactly what it sounds like. It's a giant sinkhole over 1,000 feet wide and 410 feet deep in the middle of the ocean in Belize. It gets its deep blue color from its depth, which juxtaposed with the crystal clear waters around it makes it kind of look like the eye of an otherworldly beast that's been blind dormant for thousands of years, just waiting to swallow unsuspecting swimmers alive. The Great Blue Hole is part of the gorgeous Belize Barrier Reef and Mesoamerican Reef, so it is a huge hot spot for scuba divers. But with a hole that deep, who knows what sort of deep sea creatures are staring back up at you. It is widely believed that the hull was formed way back in the Ice Age, when a submerged limestone cave system collapsed when the sea levels began to change. If you do manage to swim down there into the blue hole, you'll find massive stalactites and stalagmites that are bound to help provide researchers with vital information about the climate of the past. So not only is the Great Blue Hole but once-in-a-lifetime diving spot, it's basically an underwater natural history museum. Number 8. Painted Hills. The west coast of the United States is known for having some pretty spectacular scenery, but the state of Oregon really manages to stand out with its diverse environment. Oregon's Painted Hills look like it's in a class of its own, only accessible by car. As soon as you pull in here, you'll think that you've stepped out of a spaceship and landed on Mars, because otherworldly is the only word to describe this place. This place is old, like 35 million years old. The ancient river floodplain was once home to all sorts of tropical flora and fauna, and all that remains are the gorgeous multicolored hills. You're treated to blacks, yellows, purples, and the striking red colors of the Painted Hills that are especially beautiful right at sunset, and the colors will even change depending on the weather and moisture in the air, meaning this place is worth multiple visits. In the spring you can see all of the yellow wildflowers bloom, and then in the winter the white blankets of snow cover this Martian world. The Painted Hills have changed colors as Earth's climate slowly changed over millennia, which means that it's likely as time passes and new generations come to appreciate the hills, these colors will have changed even more. Number 7. Giant's Causeway. Make your way over to County Antrim in the north coast of Northern Ireland, and you'll find the breathtaking 40,000 interlocking basalt columns known as the Giant's Causeway, declared a World Heritage Site by UNESCO back in 1986 and a National Nature Reserve the next year by the Department of the Environment for Northern Ireland. Giant's Causeway is the result of a volcanic fissure eruption millions of years ago. To us land lovers, the tops of all 40,000 of these giant columns form the stepping stones that lead from the foot of the cliffs and then disappear into the sea. But change your perspective a little bit, and really the Giant's Causeway is a giant stone staircase leading from the ocean to the surface world. The tallest of the volcanic stones are around 39 feet high and could be about 92 feet thick in some places, so while they've been eroding over the last few millennia, it's quite likely that these strange formations will outlive us all, making it kind of the perfect place for sea dwellers to finally make their mark on land when we're all gone. Legend has it that an Irish giant named Finn McCool built the causeway so he could walk over to Scotland to defeat his rival Benidorm. During his trip to Scotland, Finn fell asleep and Benad Armour took advantage of his giant foe's nap and followed the causeway himself, but Finn's wife was ready and wrapped the giant in a cloth, posing him as their son. When Benidorm made it to Northern Ireland, he saw what he believed to be a giant baby, and if that's how big Finn's child is, just imagine how big Finn must be. A frightened Benad Armour fled back home to Scotland, and all that's left behind of this tale is the Giant's Causeway. Number 6. Bryce Canyon National Park. If you can manage to weave your way through the 1.5 million people that visit this site each year, then Bryce National Park in Utah is worth the visit. But what makes it stand out from other popular hiking spots? Well, it's the unusual spears and structures known as hoodoos that populate the canyon for as far as the eye can see, some of which are an impressive 10 stories tall. The hoodoos of Bryce Canyon were formed by water freezing and melting over and over again in the cracks of the sedimentary rocks, which makes them look like they were put here by aliens. Well, despite the number of visitors it sees each year, Bryce Canyon sits in a remote location and covers almost 36,000 acres of land. If you were flying over this landmark, you might think it was a sprawling metropolitan city filled with skyscrapers at first glance, unless the structures of Bryce Canyon are almost too amazing to have been conceived by the limited minds of even the most imaginative humans. Aside from a stunning geological landscape, Bryce Canyon National Park is also home to some pretty equally stunning wildlife. 3 wildlife species protected under the Endangered Species Act call this place home: the Utah prairie dog, the southwestern willow flycatcher, and the awesome Californian condor. It's one of the best places in the world for stargazing too, as it has one of the darkest skies in North America. Stargazers can see 7,500 stars with their naked eye alone, whereas in light-polluted cities, you can see about a dozen. Astronomy events are held here too, in the Bryce Canyon Astronomy Festival in June attracts thousands of visitors, and in honor of their astronomy festival, asteroid 49272 was named after the national park. This national park really is one of the coolest geological formations in the world. Number 5. Chocolate Hills. Moving over to the Philippines now, this next unusual natural formation on our list is perfect for anyone out there with a serious sweet tooth. Well, maybe not, but the name alone should have your mouth watering, because these Chocolate Hills in the Philippines' Bohol province has a one-of-a-kind place that looks like it was made by some of the region's best artists, but lo and behold, it is all natural. There are close to 1,800 hills that make up this geological formation and span 20 square miles. But why the name, you may be asking yourself? Well, the hills are all covered in vibrant green grass that turns brown during the dry season, making it look like mounds of chocolate as far as the eye can see. Man, if only. Naturally, the Chocolate Hills of Bohol drawing tourists from around the world and are even featured in the provincial flag. It is an amazing natural sight, and because of the hills tower over the region's tall trees, it looks like it's home to giants from long ago. Despite their natural symmetry and sheer abundance, no one really knows for sure how these chocolate hills were formed, so plenty of people have come up with stories and legends to explain their origin. Aside from possible oceanic activity, limestone weathering, and ancient volcanoes, a more entertaining theory explains that a giant buffalo came and wreaked havoc in the region, eating and destroying all the crops. As an act of vengeance, the locals left out their spoiled crops. When the buffalo came to eat them, he got sick and left mounds of feces in its wake, bringing new meaning to the name Chocolate Hills. Rose. Number 4. The Yellowstone funerals. There are a million things to see in Yellowstone National Park, but some of the best sights are the funerals. So what are they? Well, funerals have formed when Scorching liquid lava located just below the Earth's surface extends pressure on overlying rocks, causing them to crack within the Earth's crust, which creates vents or openings. Steam and pressure within the interior and exterior of the Earth's crust to release numerous gases into the atmosphere like sulfur dioxide, hydrogen sulfide, and carbon dioxide, all of which are normally dissolved in the magma during the volcanic eruptions. But what we get in Yellowstone is toxic gas spewing up from the Earth. Be careful though, because the gases released by fumaroles are toxic to humans, and anyone getting too close should wear protective masks. However, despite being so toxic to humans, these gases enrich the Earth's soils, and the fumaroles can also become some hot springs when located close to the surface of the Earth. One of the more notable fumaroles of Yellowstone National Park is the Grand Prismatic Spring, first discovered in the early 1800s amidst the geysers and sulfurous bubblings of Yellowstone National Park. The natural hot spring is the largest of its kind within the United States, attracting hundreds of thousands of visitors per year. The pool is a piercing blue surrounded by rings of color ranging from red to green. This alien-like effect is caused by varieties of pigmented bacteria and microbes that thrive in the warm, mineral-abundant waters surrounding the spring, changing along with the seasons. These colors fade and grow more deeply depending on what type of bacteria is thriving in the weather at that time. Center of the pool, where the water boils up from underground, is so hot that the water is actually sterile. This produces a shockingly clear and bold blue color that the spring maintains year-round. The only catch here is if you touch the water, it is hot enough to melt skin from bone in an instant. So yeah, swim at your own risk. Number 3. Devil's Tower, found in Bear Lodge. Mountains of Wyoming. Devil's Tower rises sharply and dramatically upwards to a height of 867 feet tall from base to summit. It got its name in 1875 when Colonel Richard Dodge misinterpreted a native name for the feature to mean Bad God's Tower. The natives in the area actually called it a variation on Bear House or Bear's Lodge. The tower is a great example of volcanic intrusion. It began its formation around 56 million years ago when the Rocky Mountains were uplifted. Magma rose up through the crust and intruded into the existing sedimentary rock layers that accumulated over 225 million years when the area was a vast shallow sea. While most geologists agree that the tower is a volcanic intrusion, they don't exactly agree on how the process took place. It was first thought that the eroded remnant of a laccolith, a large mass of igneous rock that intrudes sedimentary beds without reaching the surface. But other theories posit that it's a volcanic plug or the neck of an extinct volcano. The columnar structures you see making up the size were formed through the same process as the Giant's Causeway. Cooling magma shrinks and cracks and form at 120-degree angle, creating hexagonal columns. The Devil's Tower looks solid and imposing, but erosion continues to this day and will keep eroding the base away, exposing more and more of the intrusion. Number 2. Mount Roraima. Look like the scene from a science fiction or fantasy film. But make no mistake, Mount Roraima is all natural other than the gorgeous facade. What makes this formation so unique is the fact that Mount Roraima is surrounded by 3 different countries: Venezuela, Brazil, and Guyana, whose borderlines intersect on the massive shelf, with all 4 sides being sheer 1,300-foot tall cliffs. While its cliff walls are only scalable by the most experienced of climbers, there is a path up the mountain's natural ramp-like path, which can take up to 2 days to complete. However, the mountain is worth a visit for more reasons than the impressive cliffs. Mount Roraima, part of Venezuela's 30,000 square kilometer Canama National Park, is the site of the highest peak in the country of Guyana's Highland Range. The mountains of this range, including Roraima, are considered to be some of the oldest geological formations known, some dating back 2 billion years. Its near daily rains have also created a unique ecosystem that includes several endemic species such as a unique carnivorous pitcher plant and some of the highest waterfalls in the world. Culturally, the mountain's long-held significance to the indigenous people of the area features prominently in their myths and their folklore. This remains a landscape of jungles and cliffs. It's inspired some of the greatest works of all time, like Sir Arthur Conan Doyle's The Lost World and the film Up. Number 1. The Grand Canyon. There's no way on earth for anyone to talk about amazing geological formations without Talking about the Grand Canyon, where to even begin with this area. The Grand Canyon is an incredibly extensive system cut out by the Colorado River in northwestern Arizona. The canyon goes a mile deep in many areas and extends for nearly 300 miles from northern Arizona to the Grant Wash Cliffs near to the Nevada border. Nearly 2 billion years of Earth's geological history have been exposed here, as the Colorado River and its tributaries cut their channels through layer after layer of rock. While the Colorado Plateau was uplifted to what we see today, with several studies supporting the hypothesis that the Colorado River established its course through the area about 5 to 6 million years ago. And while the Grand Canyon may seem inhospitable to modern-day people, the area has been inhabited by indigenous Americans for thousands of years, living in settlements within caves. To this day, this is a holy site.